Hello friends, the topic of today's discussion is poliomyelitis. Poliovirus is a RNA virus, it's a single stranded RNA virus and it causes an infection by initially entering the body through either the gastrointestinal tract or via the respiratory tracts, and subsequently they spread through the lymphatic system or through the bloodstream and finally reach the central nervous system. Once it has reached the central nervous system, the poliovirus has a special affinity for the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord and for certain motor nuclei of the brainstem. Here we can see the cross section of the spinal cord, and marked in red we can see the lower motor neurons originating from the anterior aspect of the spinal cord. So this is where the anterior horn cells, the nuclei of the anterior horn cells are located. The axons travel down the spinal cord and through the peripheral nerves to reach the end organs, which are the muscles. Since only the motor nerves are involved, the sensory nerves are spared. So in poliomyelitis, the sensations will always be normal and there will be a patchy involvement of the peripheral nervous system. So the motor nerves undergo necrosis, that is the anterior horn cells undergo necrosis, because of which there is a loss of innervation of the motor units which the peripheral nerves supply. Coming to the history of poliomyelitis, this is of course a historical disease and fresh cases of poliomyelitis uh, may not be seen by our generation if we are fortunate enough. So, just having a peek into the historical aspect of poliomyelitis, the first epidemic of polio broke out in the island of Saint Helena, which happened in the 1830s. And Saint Helena is also famous as the place where Napoleon Bonaparte died in prison. So, that is Saint Helena, a very small island in the Atlantic Ocean. Here we see the progress towards the polio eradication. As we see early in the 1920s, polio was endemic all over the world, but since the advent of the vaccine in the 1950s, slowly the number of endemic countries reduced. Of course, since the vaccine was available in most of the developed countries, the Western world got free from polio at a very early stage, whereas most of Asia and Africa still languished even in the early 80s and the 90s. And at present, only two countries are endemic to poliovirus, that is, our neighbors Pakistan and Afghanistan. As we can see that even Nigeria is in red in this particular image, but Nigeria was also declared polio free in the 2016 or 2018. So as of now there are only two countries endemic to poliovirus, that is Pakistan and Afghanistan. Of course, India was declared polio free in 2014. So the only poliovirus which remains in Africa is the vaccine derived poliovirus, which is present in West Africa around Nigeria. It's a rare form of virus that mutates from the oral polio vaccine and it can spread in the under immunized communities. So that is why herd immunity is very important to eradicate poliovirus. So at present, this vaccine-derived poliovirus is present in a lot of small countries like Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, and Angola, as well as Djibouti and Ethiopia. But that aside, wild poliovirus is only seen in two countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan. And there is a fight against polio, which is in spite of being declared polio free, we are still undergoing this pulse polio program, and polio vaccines are available free of cost to all children below 5 years of age, and it is very important that we continue vaccinating children. Now coming to the virus as such, poliovirus is an enterovirus, and apart from poliovirus, there are many other enterovirus which can uh, create a paralytic disease which is clinically and pathologically indistinguishable from poliomyelitis. And coming to the different types of poliovirus, it is of course divided into a wild poliovirus and a vaccine derived poliovirus. The wild poliovirus has three serotypes: type 1, type 2 and type 3. There is no cross immunity between these different types of poliovirus, and a person who is infected with one type can be infected later on with a different type of poliovirus. In the past, poliomyelitis was an epidemic disease in the summer and fall months, with sporadic cases occurring throughout the year. And the development of the vaccine greatly reduced the incidence of poliomyelitis. However, a few cases are still seen, and rehabilitation of patients who have already suffered from paralytic polio remains a concern to the orthopedic surgeon. There is also the vaccine derived poliovirus, but we will not go into uh, the talk of vaccine derived polioviruses because I feel it's out of the purview of this particular chapter. Now, polio infection can present in many different forms. Most of the infections are very inapparent, and they are like a minor cold or a minor gastrointestinal symptom. However, a few cases can proceed to a proper prodromal symptoms of upper respiratory tract as well as the GIT symptoms, and produce what we know as clinical poliomyelitis. Clinical poliomyelitis can be abortive polio, as explained earlier, a small bout of uh, either upper respiratory tract symptoms or GI symptoms, and the other part where it travels through the bloodstream into the CNS, involving the CNS, which creates either a non-paralytic form of polio or a paralytic form of polio. Now, this paralytic form of polio is what is of interest to us in this chapter. Paralytic polio itself can be involving the bulbar system, the spinal system, or both the bulbospinal. And paralytic polio, it can be any form, but paralytic polio over time can give rise to what we know as post-polio syndrome. We will come to all of this one by one. Coming to the pathology of poliovirus, poliovirus has a definite predilection for anterior horn cells of the spinal cord and for certain motor nuclei in the brainstem. The lumbar and cervical enlargements of the spinal cord are the most commonly affected. That is why we get both upper and lower limb involvement in poliomyelitis. The damage to the motor neurons can be direct through the toxic effect of the poliovirus, or it can be indirect, occurring through the ischemia, edema and hemorrhage in the neuron's supportive neuroglial tissue. Once the inflammatory reaction starts, there is an infiltration of both polymorphonuclear cells as well as mononuclear cells, and the nerve tissue is replaced by scar tissue, and there is a irreversible damage to the motor neurons. Now, involvement of the anterior horn cells varies from minimal injury with temporary inhibition of metabolic activity and rapid recovery to complete and irreversible destruction of the nerve cells. The paralysis is of flaccid type with individual motor units following the all or none law because the virus affects the anterior horn cells rather than the muscles. The percentage of motor units destroyed varies, and the resultant muscle weakness is proportionate to the number of motor units that are lost. For example, a muscle with poor muscle strength will have 20% of its motor units functioning, whereas a muscle with good motor strength will have about 80% of its motor units that are functioning. So, we know that the weakness is directly proportional to the number of motor units that are lost. These remaining functional motor units are called the guiding neuromuscular units, and they are of particular importance in retaining the patterns of motion of the individual muscles or muscle groups during the recovery stage. The recovery of muscle power primarily depends on restitution of the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord that have been damaged but not destroyed. It is to note, if the nerve cells are completely destroyed, then the recovery is very poor.